Marching towards the shining future, courage high, the past is gone. Overcoming fear and counting mountain glory, summit stone. Through storm clouds dark and glowing, through fierce lightning flash and flame, on the Republic of Guyana, glorify Guyana's name. Forward, forward, youthful nation, rang with power the husband's might. May his strength forever gratitude strive, and season be for right. From Guyana's base comes summit, to wise sovereigns takes the train. Bid thy people give Guyana, strong, united, loyal, free. My Guyana, my Guyana, my Guyana. My Guyana, Eldorado, best of all the world away. In my heart wherever I wander, memory enshrined thee. All my hopes and aspirations, all my longings only tie. Everlasting bonds around us, as the fleeting years roll by. My Guyana, Eldorado, my Guyana, times unfolding, evermore my destiny, to redeeming lasting splendor, all for years and lost glory. And the dawning of thy glory, for the long, long night is past. Oh, arise, triumphant, glorious, from the ashes of the past. Oh, arise, triumphant, glorious, from the ashes of the past. Oh, my lovely native land, more dear to me than all the world, I see washed on his strand. Pour down upon the borders, looking out upon the deep, the great Atlantic flowed into a fury. For a sea at morn, at noon, or measuring the crimson sunset's glow, I love thee, I love thee, I love thee. Oh, oh, beautiful Guyana, oh, my lovely native land. near and o'er the world I see waters starting to strong. Pour down upon the borders of the snow, the great Atlantic going to a pure sea. As old as gold, or better in the present sunset's glow. I love thee, I love thee, I Guyana, I want to serve my country. Guyana, beautiful, happy, and free. Guyana, let's cooperate with our government to help develop Guyana the free. Together, my comrades, we will build our new Guyana, a country where all are equal opportunity. So let us begin now to show loyalty to Guyana by showing love and respect for all that it means. My brothers, my sisters, we will live and die here together. On to one people, one nation, one destiny. For harmonious living, cooperation will be forever. In work and play as we live as proud Guyanese. Guyana, I want to serve my country. Guyana, beautiful, happy, and free. Guyana, let's cooperate with our government to help develop Guyana the free. When it's time we settle all the rich lands in the interior, our natural resources are there in great quantity, and we will do farming and establish towns by the border. With global food so we could fill all Guyanese. My greatest desire is to serve my country, Guyana, and sincerely help Guyana to move along. Our government asks us, and we study hard and we learn the things that will help Guyana to become strong. Guyana, I want to serve my country. Guyana, beautiful, happy, and free. Guyana, let's cooperate with our government to help develop Guyana the free. To help develop Guyana the free. Africans for sale, for sale, for sale. Africans for sale, for sale, for sale.
All your good, yes? I was climbing with some old men before the election, and well, I was amazed of their discussion. They were discussing the election of 2025, how Africans were selling cheap and UNC buying, dead or alive. One old man shout out, fellas, give me your attention.
Africans for sale, for sale, for sale.
Oh, somebody pinch me, hey. I was liming with some old men before the election, and well, I was amazed of their discussion. They were discussing the election of 2025, how Africans were selling sheep and UNC buying, dead or alive. One old man shout out, fellas, give me your attention. UNC can't win by themselves, no election. You see, they're sitting and they're planning to make a decision. So she called out Sheila who the old FIFA wanted man. She said, call the trade union, let we start negotiations. And we could call out a big sale and we go buy out some Africans. Africans for sale, we buying the buying. Africans for sale, for sale, for sale, we buying Africans. She don't have all she lal chance, and she be on her rhymes. Now all she need is some slave names, man, some big strong Africans. Africans for sale, we buying Africans. Africans for sale, for sale, for sale, so they go on Trinidad. UNC sitting and they're waiting patiently. With about 16 safe seats, they don't win that already. The woman said, I have my people, and they are born UNC. Now all I need is some Africans who got their names out of slavery. She said that she hear they're really selling cheap, and she could buy them very cheap, 500 and a jersey. A lot of people will cry when she's finished with CPEP, cause she is not holding back them PNM have nothing to get. She said it's party before country, all you never, never forget. She will fend for her people and she have no blasted regrets. Africans for sale, we buying Africans. Africans for sale, for sale, for sale, we buying Africans. They like crab in a barrel, they pulling each other down. She said, but I want the vote, so I jam them the winning song. Africans for sale, for sale, for sale, we buying good or bad. Africans for sale, for sale, for sale, in Tobago. She's working on them with ease. But she's not afraid, because monkeys say cool breeze. She said the last time she was easy, this time there is no room for mistake. Cause when she's done with Tobago, boy, it's either they make or break. She has her eyes on Moruga, especially Samuel Cooper. They got a lot of P&M houses, but none of them can remember. She's buying some in 6 company because they're nice, they're bad and they trim. Their ancestors came from Africa and all of them is Americans. She passed through 5th company, boy, she bunks up my dingo. Well, boy, she makes she name cause she gets Africans for soul. Africans for sale, for sale, for sale. They buying Africans. Africans for sale, for sale, for sale. We buying Africans. Joe Faisabad was pretty. Sirosha with her read in the cemetery. He sit down waiting for refinery. Boy, this man had to be crazy. Africans for sale, for sale. We buying good or bad. Africans for sale, for sale, for sale. So they go on Trinidad. Hey, go on. Somebody pinch me. She said my people are loyal. They don't vote for other parties. People just show them some money, stag and roti. She said I have my safe seats in the safe hands of Caroni. Shiguanes and Cuba, straight down to Sipari. I love my people. For 10 years they out in the rain. But when I get back in there, things will never be the same. To all of my people, you must get your rightful place. And I don't care who's sitting there and think I am talking race. You all know what's hurting me. You see that, Dr. Rowley? We didn't hide up all we money. The damn man changed the currency. Hey, Africans for sale, for sale. They buying Africans. They buy Africans for sale. PSA, we got them for 10%. No, I could beat my chest.
Africans for sale, for sale, for sale. We buying Africans. Morning, are you morning? Welcome to another program of Guyanese Morning Time. It is now 7 hours 35 on the 9th day of February in the year 2025. How you been? How was your last night? How was yesterday? How was your weekend? How was the audio? Talk to me. Let's get the show on the road. Africans for sale, for sale. We buying Africans. This is a hit. This is a hit. I love it. From the first time I heard it, I love it. Africans for sale, performed by a young lady they call Queen Victoria. Right? I understand that she was thrown out of the competition. Not surprising there, no surprise there, because the fact is, the truth hurts. And even the creatives, a lot of the creatives cannot stand the truth when they hear it. Right? So not only in Ghana, but now you're seeing it in Trinidad. when the young lady sang in the children's matrimony competition, I think, or calypso competition, when that young lady sang that song about 6%, I think, they threw her out of the competition, right? In Guyana. And now here is an adult singing about the buying and selling of Africans in Trinidad for electoral reasons, political reasons, just as though we talk about the buying and sale for Africa of Africans in Ghana. And she has been thrown out of the competition. That's such a racist. But again, I will continue to say you can't legislate the truth. You can't punish the truth. You can attempt to, but when they behave in that way, all they do is give us a bigger platform to point out the fact. So big up yourself, Queen Victoria. Big up yourself, African Cecile. And one of the things I like in the song, she said, they're buying Africans good or bad. They're buying Africans good or bad. Look across the PPP in Ghana. And you're going to see they're buying the good, bad, and the ugly Africans because they got work for all of them, man. Right? Who was sitting in the car with a whole barrage of guns not so long ago and singing, let it blow, blow, blow. The guy will come out, the son saying gonna come out. Wasn't it a black brother? Check about all of the disruptions when it comes to elections and the PPP, and you can see who's always at the forefront of the PPP misbehavior. Good. So nothing strange here, nothing strange in Trinidad. Africans are sale. And my brother is saying they're going to always be for sale because, as I would say, the meditation scatter. Right? The meditation scatter. You see the man, Rowley? We don't hide up all we money. The man got and change the currency. Right? We don't hide up all we money. The man got and change the currency. Y'all remember as part of the money laundering, MLCFT, anti-money laundering, countering the financing of terrorism efforts in the Caribbean, there are some countries that changed their currency. I think it was right in Trinidad where a pastor couldn't account for millions of dollars that he had stored in cardboard boxes. But I can't remember if he went to jail for that, but I know for a fact that the money most likely was confiscated. Because there was an amnesty period by which you can go and trade in your money, if I can see that. And so a lot of people, a lot of thieves in government suffered losses. And for that, I guess they will never forgive Rowley if Victoria has her names correct. I can't remember the timeline. And so I'm sure she would have done her research. So it must have been Rowley in government when that step was taken by the Trinidadian government. Right? We won't forgive you. We won't forget you. You cost us a lot of money. Who got a gumption? Who got a gumption to do the same thing or similar in Ghana? Let's say the government changes tomorrow. Who got a gumption to change the currency and give people an amnesty by which they are to trade in their old currency for new ones? I don't think any I don't think there are many of our local politicians who have the temerity to do that, because a lot of them are connected in some way or other to the underground economy. My information tells me that there are banks around this country that are not banks. They are unmarked buildings with hundreds of billions of dollars inside for safekeeping. Can you imagine if your government were to take the step to say, listen, we're changing the currency, you got X amount of time to bring in your old currency and we will exchange it for new. But you gotta be able to justify where it's coming from. Hey, what a thing. I can imagine what will be happening there. Africans for sale. For sale, for sale. We buying Africans. It's Monday. It's Monday Musings. We're expecting MP Professor David Hines to come in and do the parliamentary report. So in the meantime, let's play this song for one more time. I want you to enjoy it as much as I enjoy it, but don't just listen to the rhythm and so on. So listen to the lessons. Africans is here.
Since the election of 2025, how Africans were selling sheep on UNC, buying dead or alive. One old man shout out, fellas, give me your attention. UNC can't win by themselves, no election. You see, they're sitting and they're planning to make a decision. So she called out Shilaga, who the old FIFA wanted man. She said, call the trade union, let we start negotiations. And we could call out a big sale and we go buy out some Africans. Africans for sale, we buying the buying. Africans for sale, for sale, for sale, we buying Africans. She don't have all she lal chance, and she knew no rhymes. Now all she need is some slave names, man, some big strong Africans. Africans for sale, we buy it. Africans for sale, for sale, for sale, till they go on Trinidad. You were waiting patiently with about 16 safe seats. They don't win that already. The woman said, I have my people and they are born UNC. Now all I need is some Africans who got their names out of slavery. She said that she hear they're really selling cheap, and she could buy them very cheap, 500 and a jersey. A lot of people will cry when she's finished with CPEP, cause she is not holding back them TV for country. Oh, you never, never forget. She will fend for her people and she have no blasted regrets. Africans for sale, we buying African. The Africans flying, but I want the votes, so I jam them the winning song. Africans for sale, for sale, for sale, we sale for sale till they go on trade. Oh. She has her eyes on Moruga, especially Samuel Cooper. They got a lot of P&M houses, but none of them can remember. She's buying some in 6 company because they're nice, they're bad on the trim. Their ancestors came from Africa and all of them is Americans. She passed through 5 company, boy, she bunks up my dingo. Well, boy, she makes she name cause she get Africans for soul. Africans for sale, for sale, for sale. They buying Africans. Africans for sale, for sale, for sale. We buying Africans. So Faizabad was pretty serious with her in the cemetery. He's still on waiting for refinery. Boy, this man had to be crazy. Africans for sale, for sale. We buying good or bad. Africans for sale, for sale, for sale. So they go on Trinidad. Hey, come on. Somebody pinch me. She said my people are loyal. They They don't vote for other parties.
My people are loyal, they don't vote for other parties. Where's the loyalty, black man? Where's the loyalty there, Africans? Where's the loyalty, Africans? Where is the loyalty? You know, every now and again you get, never so often I should say, you get pieces like these that come out and they really ruffle the feathers of the big wigs, you know, those who are sitting comfortably on the backs of Africans, right? I think this is going to be our anthem for the next several weeks on Guyanese morning time, Buxtonian morning time, because the message is resounding. It really addresses not only what has happened and is happening in Trinidad, but what has happened and continues to happen in Guyana. Right? African sale, the cheapest thing available right now, because even if you go in the market, it's a challenge to buy food. Right? It's a challenge to buy food, but you could buy Africans cheap. What a burning shame. Anyways, it's 30 minutes to the 8 o'clock hour. You're tuned to the Guyanese morning time. It is the 9th of February in the year 2026. If you are getting some lags, as we call them, because I'm getting some lags. If you're getting some lags in the video and the audio, just bear with us, cope with us. We're still working without what we need to perform at an optimal, right? And so I'm reminding you to make your contributions towards us replacing the laptop so that we can go back to the days of smooth broadcasting and trouble-free broadcasting. I mean, you got all kind of tools that you can use to do all kind of work. But at the end of the day, the quality of the tools that you use will determine the quality of the work that is produced. Like they say, the only thing you got is a hammer, everything else got to become a nail. I grew up hearing people call others cutlass carpenter, because instead of having a wood plane to dress the wood or reduce the size of the wood, them body used to resort to cutlass, right? Because this is all they got. These are modern times. You can't do broadcasting with a regular computer that doesn't have the capacity to drive all the things that has to be driven. The operating system, the processor has to be a powerhouse, right? And that is why I'm missing my Predator, because the processor was a powerhouse, right? They say when they say when you go black, you don't go back. But once I went in the direction of that particular device, I can't see myself going back or working comfortably with anything less than that. Upgrades, yes, upgrades are usually necessary, but even without upgrading, I'm comfortable with that Predator. And so I really want us to put our shoulders to the wheel and let's see if together we can get Cam's TV another Predator at least, so that we can work in comfort. Good. Every time you switch from one thing to the other, the thing makes a you see yourself on one monitor, you're seeing the music on another monitor, when you're supposed to be seeing the same thing on both monitors and so on. So it could be frightening. But yes, all right. So let's talk, let's chat. The MP is supposed to be coming. At least he has indicated that he will be coming. But in the meantime, there's some things I want us to talk about. And I want to go back to last Friday, I think, when the question of I would say dated numbers came up in terms of the poverty rate in Guyana. Right? When our morning jester called and say, well, listen, it has just been revealed that those numbers, 38% in poverty, 48% in poverty, and 32%, I think, in abject poverty, were numbers from 2019 when the coalition was in office. Right? Yes, I acknowledge those numbers were from when the coalition was in office, but I also explained that over time those numbers have changed. Not officially, because the government has not done the well, I think those surveys were done, but the government has not necessarily released the information with regard to the household survey. I remember I'm sure I remember the household, if that is what they call it, household income survey or something like that, was done. I remember that survey being done. But the information has not been provided. But unofficial estimates from the international agencies are suggesting that the poverty rate is now 48%. It has increased by 10% from 2019 to now. 48%, a 10% rise in poverty in Guyana. Right? And so when this guy comes in, he says, but those are all numbers, you are using 48%, 38%. Yes, they're all numbers. But the most recent numbers represent an indictment of the PPP and its stewardship of the economy. Because there is at least a 10% rise in poverty. Now, this is what I learned, or this is what I've concluded about the PPP. When it comes to providing data, right, for critical indicators in the society, the PPP is never keen on providing that data on a real-time basis. Because if they were to provide that data on a real-time basis, then people will understand what their lives are in real time. And so, for example, the census that was done since Noah was a boy and released 3 or 4 years later, if you were to use those census data to make arguments that are unfavorable to the PPP, they will tell you that's dated. The data you're using dated. It's all information. Don't mind me just released it the other day. It's all information. It's all data you're using to come to conclusion. Things have changed. And so it's a fair argument that they will make. That those numbers you're using are no longer the numbers that are applicable. Or those are the, yes, key performance indicators. No. Yes, so they're not providing that. Just like when the parliamentary committee, public accounts committee, that is, right? When the public accounts committee was working at a rate that would have brought it up to speed in terms of analyzing government spending in a real-time way, the PPP did everything to scuttle that. Everything they did to scuttle that. They went and they changed the standing orders in terms of how the public accounts committee should be constituted and how meetings can be called and when meetings can proceed and not proceed. And having changed the standing orders to impact that, what did they do? They did everything to the opposite of the standing order to ensure that the Public Accounts Committee could not do its work and could not do its work effectively and efficiently so that Guyanese could understand in a real way what PPP stewardship of the nation's resources look like. And it's the same thing they do with statistics, like coming out of the Bureau of Statistics, the census, they hold it back for several years so that Guyanese, for example, couldn't use that kind of data to inform their political choices. Political parties couldn't use that kind of data to inform their political strategy for the last elections. Right? And so they, again, are moving at a slow pace in relation to the household income. I'm trying to remember the exact name of the survey, but I know you understand what I'm talking about, the household income survey. Like they are dragging their feet to release that kind of information, because when you release that kind of information, when you release it in a timely manner, then when your opponents quote the figures, they're quoting current figures, and so you can't say that it's old and the status of change. And that is why they use that comeback when they were being criticized about the budget and not putting people first and so on. That data is old. Yes, the data is old. But the data makes you look better, right? I'm told it is household income and expenditure survey. Good. Right? So, Mr. Jordan, share with me whether or not I'm right. That survey was conducted since the PPP was in office, right? And the findings have not been released. Am I correct? Right. So, the old data, the data still would make you look better than you look now, because the international agencies are projecting that things have changed and poverty has increased by more, at least 10% in this country. And poverty, therefore, is increasing in a time of plenty. Because in 2019, the coalition government didn't have access to all of those resources that the PPP has had. One budget of the PPP represents maybe the whole 5-year budget that the coalition government had access. Right? So when we're talking about analyzing the economic situation in this country and poverty, let us not be sidelined or misled by the PPP talking about us using old data. The old data would make them look nice, because the new data is more damning. Anyways, it's 3 minutes to the 8 o'clock hour, and the MP is in the house, so let me welcome him to do the usual Monday morning things. Professor, welcome to the program. Is Monday morning MP reports, and so welcome. I see you had your debut at the wicket of the National Assembly. And so I'm sure you want to share some reflections perhaps on that with the viewers and whatever other information is pertinent. So over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Kedaki. And I know I've been gone for a few weeks. Even my program, Politics 101, has not been on for a few weeks. But as you said, we're in the era of budget, and I know your program has not been short of analysis of the budget. I have been tuning in as much as I can. Minister Jordan, I think, gave two masterful analysis of the budget, and it's a pity that those of us on the APNU side did not get to use a lot of the insights that we got from persons like Minister Jordan. Professor Clive Thomas, as you know, has been offering some analysis of the budget in-house in the WPA. And we didn't get the time to really look at the budget using those insights on the floor. As you know, the APNU parliamentarians were each given 20 minutes. We tried to have an equitable distribution of the time on the opposition side, and that didn't materialize. If we had done it equitably, then 8 of the APNU parliamentarians would have spoken for 35 minutes. So in the circumstances where we did not get that, we lost, if you will, 2 hours, because if 8 of us had gotten an extra 15 minutes, that would have been 2 hours for the APNU parliamentarians to speak on the floor. But be that as it may, that's the outcome of the elections, you know. I find it so interesting that a lot of opposition supporters, WIN supporters, APNU supporters, and others are calling for opposition unity. And I'm laughing because I think sometimes we tie ourselves up in knots. As we know, coming down to the end of the elections, really there was a contest between APNU and WIN. And the outcome of the elections has really given us a divided opposition. And not just a divided opposition, but an opposition of adversaries. Because remember, on the win side, you have people who broke away from the APNU, and in those circumstances, I think it's somewhat unfair to expect automatic unity. Let me say, the last week, at the personal level, WIN MPs and APNU MPs get along very well. I have spoken to almost every WIN member of parliament, and as you know, I started my address in defense of one of the WIN parliamentarians who was being attacked for ungratefulness because he benefited from the gold scholarship, and criticized it, and I came to his defense. So at the personal level, relations are very good, but we have to, I think, give the two sides some time to settle, because the outcome of the elections gave you, as I said, a divided opposition, and not just a divided opposition, but a divided opposition of adversaries. If we can go back to the 2011, 2015 scenario, where we had a divided opposition, we had the AFC and the APNU. It wasn't smooth sailing. People think it was smooth sailing between the two sides. No, there was jockeying, there were disagreements. They managed to hold together in Parliament. I think they voted together in most instances, but it wasn't smooth sailing. It was not until 2015 when there was a pre-election arrangement that you had some kind of stability, because they won government and they had to govern. But in the end, as you know, everybody knows, a member of the AFC brought the government down. So I make those comments to say that our supporters have to be a little bit more patient, because you gave us an outcome that doesn't translate into automatic unity. Be that as it may, we tried as much as possible to utilize the time given to us. We may not have done so seamlessly. We may not have done so perfectly. In my own case, as I always do whenever I'm part of a team, I ask myself, what is my role? And I determined that my role in this team of 12 is to bring to bear my academic training and my activism to inform the way I tackle issues in the parliament and the way I tackle the budget. And so therefore, there were issues that I wanted to deal with. For example, cash transfers and so forth. I didn't get to cash transfers. I wanted to deal with the issue of old age pension and some of those other things that I never got to, because I got requests from public servants to raise their issue. From the University of Guyana, people wanted me to raise, when I raised their issue. And of course, the African Guyanese community wanted me to raise the issue of reparations. Now, I determined that I was not going to compress my presentation. I wanted to demonstrate that I did not have enough time. So I didn't compress my presentation as some others did. I decided that I'm going to deal with the issues, and when my time runs out, it runs out, and let Guyanese people see that we could have done with more time. The other thing I wanted to do in the budget, and probably the biggest thing that I wanted to do, is that I wanted to raise some larger issues. And I may not have done that as effectively as I wanted to, but I wanted to make the point about development and underdevelopment. At the time we got independence, we had to grapple with the question of structural underdevelopment that we brought from the colonial past. And so therefore, when planning the economy, we had to do so. The government of Guyana and the Caribbean had to take into consideration the structural underdevelopment and therefore make priorities. What are you going to invest in? Are you going to invest in bridges and roads? Are you going to invest in education? Are you going to invest in healthcare? They have to make priorities, make certain things priorities. And I think those post-colonial governments in the early decades, all of them prioritize education, all of them. And I think people like myself and yourself and so many of us are living testimony of that investment in education, putting education first, if you will, putting people first. Because it was through education that some of us were able to rise above structural poverty. Poverty is something that we brought with us from the colonial past. And so therefore, the priorities of that government, early governments, could not be bridges and roads, although they did invest in bridges and roads, but they invested in education, they invested in healthcare, and given what transpired with Venezuela immediately after independence, they had to invest a lot in foreign policy. Hence, assistance to the African liberation movement playing a larger role on the international scene to win friends, if you will. And so I wanted to make that point that now we are transitioning to an oil economy that we bring into this oil economy some of the same structural problems. Because although we made a dent in poverty in the early independence years, like I said, some of us were able to escape poverty. Poverty still remains an albatross around the neck of the nation. And so as we move into the oil economy, we are also bringing some structural problems. And any sensible government, any serious government has to grapple with that contradiction of plenty money and how you deal with the structural problems, the question of development and underdevelopment. Now we have, as everybody knows, high GDP, etc., fastest growing economy in the world, but we have the contradiction of high poverty, high cost of living. We brought into this new era the question of education. Although the early post-independence government invested a lot in education, once we move into the structural adjustment program, the investment in education and healthcare and so on, by necessity, had to be downplayed. So we come into this new oil era with some of the same old structural problems. And I think what this government is not doing is being very serious about the structural problems we have, and then take the windfall and say, what are our priorities? And I wanted to make that point, that when you say people first, then what is second? What is third? Clearly, when you look at the budget, with 50% of the budget going for infrastructure, you have to say it's an infrastructure, it's a budget of infrastructure first, not people first. And I wanted to demonstrate that contradiction on the floor of the National Assembly. And I wanted to say that a lot of the problems is not that PPP people wake up one morning and say, we want more poverty in Guyana. No, it's not so. A lot of it is not of their deliberate making. Like I said, a lot of it is structural. But where the PPP is erring is either their inability or their reluctance to grapple with the structural problems in the society. They feel that here we have a lot of money, and all we have to do is to pitch some money here, pitch some money there, put some money there, and that's development. And I am arguing, with all due respect, I'm not an economist, but I'm arguing that no, that's not how you develop a country. And so the contradiction of plenty money and plenty poverty is there, and it calls for a creative, structural policy approach to dealing with that problem. As I said, it was a problem that haunted the early independence governments, and it's a problem that by necessity must haunt this government. And when I look at the budget, I don't see any attempt to grapple with that contradiction, any attempt to grapple with the contradiction of plenty money and a poor education system and poor education outcomes. No attempt to grapple with plenty money and the socio-economic indicators. I think last week I listened to Winston talking about health and the fact that we haven't moved the needle in terms of infant mortality and so forth in the last 5 years, despite spending $6 million. And I'm saying any serious government must grapple with those macroeconomic challenges. And I don't see this government doing that. I don't see the budget doing that. And so I wanted to spend some of my time trying to demonstrate that. And when I use the frame of, everywhere the faces of men are strained and anxious, I wanted to, say in the abundance of water, people are still thirsty. And that despite all these feel-good things that the government is talking about, people's faces are still strained and anxious. And as I said, I didn't want to cuss the government. I wanted to say to the government, but you have to be more serious in dealing with these issues. And so my presentation, therefore, was informed by that. Now, the PPP, I think, is not. I don't think they're concerned about socio-economic development. I don't think they are. If you look at the budget, what you see are policies aimed at political outcomes rather than socio-economic outcomes. I think that's a big issue with this budget. It's political outcomes, and you listen to them, speaker after speaker. You listen to the Minister of Finance, that the arguments are political. The justifications are political. They're not talking about socioeconomic outcomes. And that is very frightening, because you're saying, look, I think Ashley Singh is a very bright guy. I have no doubt about that in my mind. He's a very able economist. But when I listened to him, I didn't hear an economic analysis of the challenges that one faces in a society like ours that has hit an unexpected windfall. All I hear is PNC time that did this, APNU did this, and you're going to remain on that side, and I'm going to remain on this side, and we win, and free and fair. And I'm not saying politics are not important. I'm trained in politics. But I'm saying you don't come to present a $1.5 trillion budget and you justify that budget and the policies in that budget with partisan political arguments. I just found that frightening. And I say frightening because I am beginning to think that we may well come out of this era of oil windfall being a worse country than when we entered into it. Because I don't, like I said, I don't see the attempt to grapple at the policy level, at the macroeconomic level, at the level of the structural problems that we have inherited from slavery and colonialism. I do not see any serious attempt to grapple with that. I think here is a government that is prepared to use the windfall that we have to try to win elections. That's the first thing. The second thing, that they're trying to quiet people, whether it's their supporters or people who didn't vote for them and so forth. You heard Attorney General Nandlal actually said, look, you didn't vote for us. We don't have to worry about you. We don't have to govern for you. You didn't vote for us. And, the nature of our media, in any other country, that would have been the headline the next day. But it just passed, because I think, in fairness to the media, they've become immune to what is happening in the country. And so they don't instinctively go for things like that. That was a startling revelation that, like I said, went unnoticed by the media. I think a lot of people felt that they would have given me a hard time in my presentation, and to some extent they heckled and so forth. But I didn't get as hard a time as people anticipated. Things got nasty when I raised the question of reparations. Oh my goodness. The African Guyanese on the PPP side went berserk. It wasn't so much the Indian Guyanese members or the Amerindians. It was the African Guyanese. And they went after me. One member of parliament echoed me and called me an old goat who all I think about is race. And I didn't intend to heckle, but when she, came to give her presentation, I had to heckle her. The point here is, here we are, since I was a little boy, I hear the land of many waters and the land of six races. And yet when you say, here in the land of six races, then you mention race, you become a racist. So then the whole country is racist, because they tell us we're a land of six races. But we're a land of six races where race is not important. And I am telling you, I sat in that National Assembly and I marvel, impressed with Amerindian members of parliament on the government side, in WIN, in APNU, advocating for their community. And insofar as they were arguing among themselves, it was not about what to be done for Amerindians, but how much more should be done for Amerindians. I sat there and I hear PPP Indo-Guyanese parliamentarians talking about sugar and how sugar carried Guyana in the 70s and the 80s and the 60s, and making the case for the dignity of sugar workers, making the case for the dignity of rice farmers, making the case for the dignity of fisher folk. At one time, I had to yell to one of the ministers who was talking about how sugar carried Guyana, in the 60s and I had to yell at him that bauxite also carried Guyana. And I understand why he was making that argument, but he's arguing for the dignity of those workers who are for the most part Indo-Guyanese. And nobody on that side argues for the dignity of African Guyanese workers. Nobody argues for the dignity of public servants and so forth. It was left to me to raise the issue of public servants' wages and how public servants help to put the budget together. But they put the budget in which they didn't see themselves. And so when I dared to raise the question of reparations, and I was making the argument that we have signed on as a government to the Caribbean reparations movement. We have signed on to the United Nations International Decade of the People of African Descent. But nowhere in the budget could you see a line item that talks about putting aside a sum of money in pursuit of these goals. I wasn't asking for special treatment for Africans. I wasn't asking for an African Guyanese ministry. I was merely saying that in a $1.5 trillion budget, where you see something for Amerindians, where you see something for Indo-Guyanese, both at the level of the workers, but also at the level of the commercial sector. The government boasts about all the taxes that it has removed from this. It benefits the commercial sector. And that commercial sector is dominated by our Indian Guyanese and Portuguese Guyanese and Chinese Guyanese brothers and sisters. So you see something there for all the ethnic groups except African Guyanese. And I wanted to argue for that. But my God, the African Guyanese members on the other side, they went bizarre. It's as if they were going crazy. You had to be there on the floor to see the demonstration of these people. So again, I fear for my country because there are people who are exercising power. Some may say not power, but authority. But they're there in the government. And they're blind. They are blind to the realities that are driving our society. You look, for example, the question of gender. Nowhere in the budget is there to grapple. You go to gas stations, who are pumping gas? Women, mostly young women, are pumping gas. And most of them are African Guyanese women. You go to the security sector, watchman work, mostly women, mostly African Guyanese women. You look at the people who are selling at the street corners, these little snackheads, these little things, they're mostly women. A lot of them are African Guyanese women. Yet in the budget, you don't see an attempt to grapple with that reality. You have these blanketing, I throw a little thing here, throw a little thing there, but no attempt in an incisive way to say, this is the profile of our country. Here is a lot of money that we have, $1.5 trillion. How do we craft a spending plan to deal with the realities? I have to keep hammering away at that. And so, I come out of this experience with the budget very, very, very worried. Very worried, because I think at the end of this process, we may have a worse country. I mean, I heard very early, I think it was Minister Edgil, said they're talking about oil. But this budget is only financed by oil, 400 and something billion, and so on. So it's not an oil budget. And I'm sitting there and I'm saying, does this man know what he's talking about? Yes, the budget is financed partly by oil, the money that they took from the resource fund. But How are you raising the other money that you're going to spend? You have to borrow most of it. You have to borrow most of it. And you're borrowing against what? Are you borrowing against sugar? I heard Winston Jordan here last week. 88% of our foreign earnings coming from what? Oil. 11% from rice. I think it's rice, bauxite, and I can't remember the third one. So your earnings are coming from oil. You're borrowing against oil, and you are saying it's not an oil budget. I'm saying, if my student, I don't teach anymore, but if a student gives me an answer like that, that's a straight F grade. And I'm wondering, are these ministers not aware of this? Or are they aware, but they're just playing politics? And so, sisters and brothers, I am very, very worried. You can't look at the budget like this and say, well, there's nothing good in the budget. There are sectors in the society that are going to benefit from the budget. So there's something good in there for them. I think the business sector could say there's something good in there for them. I think sugar workers generally could say there is something good in there for them because, we are subsidizing sugar. But by the same token, one cannot just read a budget in narrow terms. One has to also read that budget in larger terms. And it is the larger terms that I'm thinking about. Because I'm saying all of us live in communities. Some of us live in villages. Some of us live in wards in the town. But you don't have to go read a book to understand how impoverished our society is economically in terms of our people. You don't have to read a book. It's all around. It's all around you. You see it every day. Every day you see it. Every minute of the day you see it. And so this government cannot say that it doesn't know. It knows. But it has decided somehow or the other that it is not going to grapple with this problem, that they probably have a vision of this kind of society they would like to see when we are over with this windfall, and that society that they have a vision of is not necessarily the society that we have a vision of, or that most of Guyanese have a vision of. And so I come out of this whole budget process very, 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 very disappointed. No attempt to share the dividends in a structural way. No attempt at a cohesive social assistance network. No attempt to say we are giving social assistance today so that we don't have to give it tomorrow. I don't want Guyanese to live and die on social assistance. It's not a very dignified way. Although social assistance is very important, the state has to look after the welfare of the people. But you give the social assistance today that you don't have to do that tomorrow. And so you have to do it in a structural way. And so I want to make the distinction between social assistance and cash transfers. Cash transfers are aimed at sharing. We in the WPA very early proposed to take 10% of the oil earnings and put it towards a cash transfer, which is you are giving people a share, a direct share in the income in what we are getting from oil. And in a sense, it's a form of income. Ultimately, we want to move to a universal basic income. where each Guyanese gets an income. And if you do that, then there is less need for these cash grants and because we care and all those. If you care, then use what you're earning to, at a minimum, give each Guyanese a basic income. And you only confine social assistance to the most vulnerable in the society. To the most vulnerable in the society. Yes, we have a lot of people who are vulnerable, and so there is need for social assistance now. But like I said, for me and for us in the WPA and the APNU, it is not giving social assistance for the sake of giving social assistance. It's giving social assistance as a way of getting people off of that kind of thing. And you have to do it at the level of policy. You know, people have quite rightly complained about the old age pension. And they're telling you, well, you know, you give the old age pension small, but the people, old people benefit from this and old people benefit from that. When I talk to old people, the first thing they're concerned about is their pension. Because for a lot of them, it's their only form of income. And that pension, sometimes it's not just to take care of old people. Grandchildren, you know, young people die, leave their children. These old people got to take care of grandchildren, and they depend on that old age pension. But these PPP, if you listen to them, they are anti-old people. They're always cussing people who are geriatrics and who are this and who are fossils and all that kind of thing. And it's revealed in the way they treat old people in the budget. These are, I refer to old people as yesterday's children. These are people who made the sacrifices when we had little. They earned little. They made a sacrifice for the nation. And now they're old and we have more money. It's a way of giving them back income that they lost when they were young and in the workforce. And I think if we begin to see these things in those terms, then we are better able to craft the kind of policies to deal with those issues. I think I'll stop with that now. Kidaki? I think you might be muted.
Yes, MP, you said what?
No, I was saying you must have been muted because I was hearing it. And I think there's an echo.
Yes, I think that echo was created somewhere at your end because it wasn't present all the time.
Okay. I don't know.
No. I think the echo is coming from your end.
All right, let me go out and come back in. See. I was finished.
Okay, so MP said he was finished there. So the lines are now open. It's 25 minutes to the 9 o'clock hour. The lines are now open for those of you who would like to ask questions, make comments, observations, etc. So the lines are open. Call it on.
Yes, good morning to you and all my Black brothers and sisters in Guyana. Good morning, Mr. David. Welcome back. Let me congratulate you for one thing. Then put on your seat belt for the other things. Thank you for continuing to wear your African print. Make Flash Garden feel so nice and proud of our ancestor design of clothes in my country. God bless you. Are you still there? Can you hear me? Okay, good. Mr. David, let me remind you what my grandmother taught me as a little boy. She said, my grandson, don't make nothing surprise you in this world when you're growing up. More you live, more you see, more you learn, more you know. And she said, every cow does cry for their own calf. And she explained that word to me. Now, when you said that what Anil mentioned inside there, and he never mentioned nothing about backside and our black people, public workers, that should not surprise you. Because Anil stand up on the stage campaign and said, hey, black people must be proud, black Guyanese must be proud to be our slave. Nobody do nothing. Nobody in front in building a protest and asking for resign. And make sure you resign. Because why? God don't like nobody use that word and do any human being that anymore. That make God leave it for let me know. We must not slave no human being. We must not call no human being slave. And nobody do nothing about it. I will say yes. The government and supporters us wake up every morning to punish black people, to keep them the bottom of the ladder, to do all kind of things to them and make sure their men live at the side of them. I will say yes. They just wake up in the morning for kill black people children and punish them. I don't believe we should ever 12 disciples should join with Win Party for what? Because Win said, hey dog, I don't think me got to be president because I get 16 seats. We must put a criminal there for be our president again. We got to demonstrate what my grandmother teach me. Do your best and leave the rest. We got to challenge both parties now because black people make it that tough for us. But if we do the right thing, we will win both of them, Win and PPP. Because black people are more in Guyana. From since 92, I keep telling black man that. Because I travel very often back and forth for no things. We are more in Guyana. What Win did, when Win that he become leader, what he did? He called for them 3 black brothers' head. Not even 2 he called for, or 1. He want all 3. Why? Why we must wait when you come it over? Flat God don't like them teaching that. Flat God don't like them expression. We got to be careful. Before me go quick. Win stand up in Parliament and said plain. I funded PPP party for 28 years. I cannot explain it. But let black people in Guyana listen to those words. I funded PPP party for 28 years. And what we receive, any benefit from when you was funding PPP party, you know the rest. Quick. The government putting people last. If was funding the government for put black people last. So when he talking these words, he putting himself outside there, but black people didn't realize what that guy all about. Mohammed challenged government over corruption. Mohammed said plain, the bank used to call him 2 o'clock in the morning for currency, for run the country. Hey, now, the government used to call him too. For look, I know the people want that, but we got to be careful. Let me don't depend for join with Mohammed. Stop that. We got to move on as one people. Thank you very much for your time.
If I call, the lines remain open. 6225933 is the number to call. You tune to the Guyanese Morning Time. 6225933 is the number to call. You tune to the Guyanese Morning Time. It is now 19 minutes to the 9 o'clock hour. Call you on. Proceed.
Yeah, good morning, Gadaki, and a special good morning to MP Dr. David Hines. Congratulations on your achievement. But Dr. Hines, I got one thing to say to you. Now, APNU in the parliament is only 12. Win is 16. You know, when you got up and you try to defend the person, it brought me right back to when President Granger got into power. When he tried to fix the ills of the PPP, one, he looked after Marriott, they know where else he look after. But NIS was being left. Nothing wasn't being done really to NIS. And I feel that if these people, the same Win people, would course out APNU and all kind of thing, and I think that the 12 members of parliament from APNU got a big job to fulfill. And I don't think that APNU should go about trying to talk up for Win. When it comes to people talking about coming together with Win, Win purposely and totally rejected APNU. You understand? They rejected APNU. Now we talk about AFC and PNC. AFC and PNC, nobody know that there was a known traitor in AFC, because I think if we didn't know that, we would not have allowed Sharon Das to get so close to destroy this country. Now within Win Party, many of the members of parliament got a definite hatred for APNU. So should them come together, what do you think they will do? From the PNC AFC, look what happened with one such person. Imagine a set of people in Win Party who are totally against PNC. You got all over, you got them. When this woman who is now Win was being coerced by a coolie like yourself who offered her a dildo, and let me tell you something. This type of woman battering, whether it's verbal and it's physical, it's in all things, but mostly in the Indian realm. Because I listened to a program years ago with Christian Amanpour, so they're doing an expose, and they showed quite clearly where they don't see the woman as their equal. And in countries of outside there, they would show you where they would destroy Indian women, watch them throw acid, do them all kind of things, because they feel that the women must not be on equal footing with them. Anyway, everybody got the choice, she is there. But look what a black man did for her. A young black man left and represented her, MP Sherrod Duncan. And look the amount of sittings that he lost when he tried to stand up for her against his own Matty within the parliament. Dr. Hines can't tell you nothing, but we got to be careful of how we're getting about in the parliament. Lastly, I think mention is being made about the oil wealth. But what I see, that the oil wealth is finished because with the acquisition of Venezuelan oil, Guyana oil going to slump. And when Guyana oil price slump, Exxon is going to be taking their money. They don't care come hell or high water, they will have to get their money. And the remnants who are going left, by the time they take their money, Guyana wouldn't be getting anything. But what I hope for, I saw something, I don't know if it's an AI generated report, But once that is not an AI generated report, I hope all the ill-gotten gains of the installed regime in outer parts of the world can all be levied on to reclaim some of the money that has gone into there. Don't let us study about oil, because if you look on the cards, the oil wealth is fastly going and it is showing, because the Guyana dollar against the US dollar, when oil was being announced, it was 200 to 1 US, and now the money is 2,040 Guyana dollars against that of the US dollar. And everybody knows that the US dollar is losing because of BRICS. So tell us, Guyanese, where are we going 5 years after becoming an oil-rich state? All the money gone to the top and the rest left. And I would like to know, what will the NIS pensioners be given? Because I understand that the government pension does not overtop the NIS pension. And all categories of NIS pension is below and close to the government pension. We paid money into that system. We put our monies. And if all right thinking Guyanese had the mindset like me, they would have made up their mind and taken a class action against NIS for converting our monies unknown to us in the Barbies Bridge. When you take other people's money and use it, it is fraudulent conversion of people money. I want to see what NIS pensioners are going to be getting this Iowa. Bye-bye.
Thank you for your call, Rondo. The lines remain open. 6225923 is the number to call. 12 minutes to the 9 o'clock hour. I'll take 2 more calls and then perhaps allow MP to speak, respond, close. Call Young, good morning.
Oh, yes, good morning, Kadaki. Happy New Year to you. Good morning to Dr. David Hines, Member of Parliament. Um, Congratulations on your speech, and congratulations to the 12 disciples for conducting themselves in a very professional manner. And we all can see that from the speeches, especially from those of the uh, 12 team, that there is still hope for Guyana. Um, I'm just calling in Kadaki and Dr. Hines. This is the first time I'm going to um, disagree with my best friend, Miss Rhonda Lane. And good morning to Rhonda. Good morning to all of your listeners as well. Um, the coalition government didn't do anything wrong to NIS. In fact, sh- should they have done more for every agency? Yes, fair enough, fair enough. But in such a short space of time, not too fair. But with regards to Rhonda's statement about NIS, and I'm sure Rhonda is aware of this, that the PPP destroyed NIS, just like they've destroyed every other agency and institution in Guyana. The PPP destroyed. NIS was basically hanging on a lifeline, a piece of string. They took out hundreds of millions of dollars from NIS. Pensioners, they had no regards for it. Jack Day, when the PPP took NIS money and they gave it to their friends and cronies, whether to build Borbis River Bridge, whatever. And so it was the coalition that actually rescued NIS, that actually resuscitated NIS, as well as most other agencies across Guyana, including the sugar industry. So thanks to the AFC government, AFC, APNU AFC government, sorry, for doing that. And with the 12 that we have in Parliament right now, I am optimistic that as we continue to see the growth of these individuals, that there is hope for Guyana. Uh, some folks might now be talking about unity, but we must come to the realization that when people who never believe in unity now talking about we must come together, the question is come together for what and for who and for what purpose? Anyways, I'm still watching on for now. Dr. Hines, good to see you, my friend.
Thank you.
Take care, guys.
Morning, Brother Kidaki. Morning, Honorable Dr. Hines, Dr. David Hines. Um, Brother Kidaki and viewers, good morning, pleasant good morning. When I look at that budget, you understand me? This budget is to cripple African people. You understand me? This budget under the carpet, like what they do. All of us, especially Adriana Young, that young girl that they murdered by the police force. You understand me? Y'all can recall 7 person was died a couple of years, about 2 years ago at going to Puerto Rico. 5 person that died in a bus, a truck with stone running into a bus. You know the guy, the person that was charged for that 5 deaths. You know he's on bail. He's out. He's driving back. His mother carries. His mother is a police. At Stroudsville, I see him several times at a supermarket. I don't call the supermarket name. With his mother car, this guy driving back and the case in court up to this date. Anyhow, pertaining to the budget. This budget is not a people budget. It's not a Guyanese budget. This budget is to please the PPP, install MPs them, member of parliament, ministers them, and the foreign investors and the couple friends and family that they have around them. Not for black people, and all them black people here jumping up and praising the budget. Them idiots. They're going back to roost. Big up to the 12 disciples. Y'all please my heart for what y'all have been done in parliament against these thieves, these lunatics, these murderers. You understand me? That we have as government. You understand me? As we have as government. And they call themselves government is not government. There's a dictatorship that runs in this country. And we headed to no dictatorship. We already at a dictatorship level in this country called Guyana. So who don't want to believe it? That's up to them. I live all throughout and see the difference of the APNU, and the AFC coalition and this install PPP. If possible, Bonham. There's no way these people can come close to Bonham and Mr. Green, the administrator. There's no way. I wonder what happened to our Guyanese people. Our Guyanese people are sick in our brain. How can you compare? How can you compare the PPP racial, murderous, criminal party, thieving party with Granger government. What's wrong with our people? We didn't have all this problem in Guyana today, like what we had like what we had among when Granger was in power. We didn't have all of this problem that we have today in this country. Why we Guyanese people are so stupid and they have the black people coming out, they're putting them what a clown as a president, exposing a policeman. Oh my God, it's so shame. Why they can't take the
Morning, Dr. Hines. Morning, Brother Kadaki. Morning, viewers. Dr. Hines, I must say that the presentation was a good one. Could have been better, but I know how it go, for after a very long time being being there. But all in all, your presentation was a good one and very much appreciated. I want to say this morning that with the way I see things going, the way I see things going in that parliament, and with those who might be, um, who might be the high-ranking ones, things don't look regular, things don't looking too good. And I feel that I think that we should start grooming our future leader in the APNU to contest the next election. I was gathered with a friend, and more than one friend I gathered, and the one thing you would hear that is hard for that to happen to contest against them boys because you don't have money and everything is money and all kind of thing. I would always hold on to the parable that it says small oxes fall victory. I know that parable wasn't a parable that somebody just jump up and just put it out there. It got a lot of meaning, and they had to go there for a reason. So that times I feel if we start, let us start now and put our leaders, to groom our leaders and put them out there so that the small man, the poor, those who has been forgotten, and them they could be acquainted with these people. I saw Sister Doretta in Marble Room or someone of them place campaigning with Brother Sherrod, and because of the fact that she wasn't placed there early amongst our people, I saw a mayor was there with them, and he saw two Amerindian women coming down, and he tell them to, to go join the thing. Look, the prime ministerial candidate, their own indigenous sister was there, and the people leave. They were shocked because they didn't know nothing like that. So I feel that if we started now getting our leaders, our future leaders, acquainted with the masses, it will be easier for us. It will be easier because when it comes to Guyana and the politics and the those who get marginalized and that kind of thing, I think with a right leader in the coalition, they can beat any one of them that got big money and splurging and throwing big money around and that kind of thing. Because the people conscious, the people are very much conscious enough. Don't mind how it might looking so. The people are conscious, and if we put a good leader to them, they will respond. Thanks for your time.
Thank you for your call. Professor, it's
Yes,
now 9
thanks.
o'clock, so
Yes,
the mic is yours.
yes. I
Closing remarks and statements.
Yeah, I won't be long. I just want to close by thanking the thousands of people who have expressed gratitude for our presentation, for my presentation, in particular. My daughter who perused the internet has been drawing my attention to the very favorable comments, and for those who have spoken to me written to me directly. But as usual, there's always something that stands out. The little schoolboy and school children came through throughout the week. The little schoolboy who came and asked me to take a picture. And of course, I said yes. And when he was finished, he said, I want to become a parliamentarian when I finish my studies. And I want to be able to make my speeches in Parliament without reading. And I said, yes, congratulations. He said, Dr. Hines, you did not once look down at the paper. And when I become a parliamentarian, I want to be like that. And so to the caller who said that, we have to begin to groom our young people, I think young people are paying attention to what is going on. And the other instance I want to recognize is another high school student who said he's doing Martin Carter's "This Is the Dark Time I Love." Apparently, they do it for CSEC. And my quoting from the poem and explaining the poem has helped him tremendously with his, what they call it, SBA. I don't know what these terms, but helped him tremendously. And I just want to acknowledge those two children. I understand that this is the most watched budget in decades. So people have been tuning in. We went late every night. We left there midnight, sometimes after midnight. And I was amazed. So most nights when I am coming home, the young men who were hanging out at Buxton, Milwaukee and thing, and would repeat to me what was said in Parliament. Some of them repeated to me what I said and so on. So people apparently have tuned into this budget in large numbers. The people are watching, and this government is not going to get away with as much as you think it can get away with. People are watching, people are learning, and the best form of political activism is consciousness building. I am glad that I'm living at this time. I'm glad that I'm serving at this time, because I think it's a pivotal time in our history. We are not just transitioning into an oil economy. I think we are transitioning into a new society, a different society, a more informed society, and I am glad to be part of this process. I'll see you all next week. This week we are doing the estimates, and so that is going to go on for the rest of the week. And then I think they take the vote and so on. So for those of you who've not been seeing me on Politics 101, bear strain. Hopefully next week all of this will finish and I'll be freed up to resume the program. Thanks, and most likely I'll see you all next week, Monday.
Thank you, Dr. Hines. And with that, let me remind you that the IPADG is inviting you to its Sunday lectures. It's Black History Month, and this Sunday, February 15th, the speaker is going to be Dr. David Hines, and he's going to be speaking on how Europe underdeveloped Africa. The time is 7 p.m. The Zoom link is there. You can join by Zoom. So be sure to hop on Sunday coming. Hop on Sunday coming for the Zoom meeting, ID 850-0413-3596 with password 917572. Right, remember it's the Ipadi Detox African History Month Public Lecture Series. And the first one was yesterday with Vincent Alexander. And the next one is this Sunday 15th with David Hines, How Europe Underdeveloped Africa by Walter Rodney. So be sure to tune in. And let me leave you with this classic. This classic, this is a real classic. I will not describe it as anything else. It's Calypso Queen Victoria. Africans for sale.
Africans for sale, for sale, for sale.
I don't.
Africans for sale, for sale, for sale.
Hello.
All your good, yes? I was lining with some old men before the election, and well, I was amazed of their discussion. They were discussing the election of 2025. How Africans were selling cheap and UNC buying dead or alive. One old man shout out, fellas, give me your attention. UNC can't win by themselves, no election. You see, they're sitting and they're planning to make a decision. So she called out Shilaga, who the old FIFA wanted man. She said, call the trade union, let we start negotiations. And we could call out a big sale and we go buy out some Africans. Africans for sale, for sale, for sale. We buying Africans. Sing the thing. Africans for sale, for sale, for sale. We buying Africans. She don't have all she chance and she the honor rhymes. No, what she need is some slave names, man, some big strong Africans. Africans for sale, for sale, for sale. We buying good or bad. Africans for sale, for sale, for sale. Jamaica and Trinidad. Oh, somebody pinch me. Hey! UNC sitting and they're waiting patiently. With about 16 safe seats, they don't win that already. The woman said, I have my people, and they are born UNCs.